Many thanks for joining us. You're watching Gobi and Horn of Africa. This is Future Africa Show, and Future Africa Show is dedicated to African agendas. And today I joined by a communication member of African Continental Party from South Africa, Kabala John. Good to join me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Can you tell us a bit about this Continental Party and your post there in this party as well?
Thank you. My name is Kabala John. I'm a member of the African Continental Unity Party. It's a political movement across Africa, as also in the diaspora, which is aiming to transform itself into political parties in all African countries with one vision and one mission, which is for the African liberation. And I'm just a communication member of the African Continental Unity Party. I'm also an author of 2 books. I'm also a member of the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy, which is an academy for future African leaders in politics and in business.
All right. You're author of 2 books, right? What are those
Yes,
books?
sir. I'm author of
What
2
are
books.
those books?
Well, my first book, it's Expropriation of the Mind Without Compensation. And my second book, which is going to be released in 1 week from now, it's What Time Is It? My Question to the African Millennials. It speaks most importantly about the current time, the current issues confronted by African people, and how to obviously look into all those issues holistically, and obviously think about what has to be the actions that African millennials have to take from this moment on, because I believe that we are the key generation that has to set a tone for the future of Africa for the rest of 21st century and other centuries to come. And if we don't understand the time that it is right now, it is impossible to even figure out what kind of actions we have to implement in order to see Africa in a way or in a picture that we have imagined it. So this, the book that really introduces African people to all these concepts, and most importantly, the current reality that the world is confronted by. And by understanding those realities, we'll be able to obviously figure out where we want to take Africa and what kind of actions we need to implement in order to see Africa in a way that we want to see it.
What about the first book?
The first book is Expropriation of the Mind Without Compensation. It tackles the issues of the transformation of the mind. Most importantly, the issue of the transformation of our societies. You know, for the very long time, we have been buying into development concepts of Western civilization, you know, starting from the post-independence period. We were told the development for Africa to develop, it needs to embark in what was called modernization or industrialization. But we know for the fact that as a man thinks, so does he. I mean, so is he actually. And also we can bring this concept to say that as the people think, so is their society. It means the reality of a society is actually a projection of what the people think within themselves. And no country can develop with infrastructure, with modernization, I mean, with industries, with roads, railways, with, I don't know, all kind of infrastructure cannot develop a nation if people have not yet developed in their minds. So the first development that has to be tackled is the personal and individual development of people from their mindset. And from there, it will trickle down to the development of their nations and whatever else that they want to be, they want to see in their nation. So my first book is actually about the personal development of African people by understanding certain things that we don't understand currently. And then obviously by understanding also holistically ourselves as human beings and how we are supposed to function and how we are supposed to think. That's a very fundamental to the development of people and also development of a society.
Well said. Okay. You're a member of African Continental Party, as you have highlighted us a while ago. And could you tell us the objective and vision and aspiration of this Continental Party in brief?
Well, the African Continental Unity Party, as it's called, it's a newly founded party, as I said, across Africa, with a vision to re-establish the African global power base. That is our main vision. Why power? Because power is the foundation of everything. The power is the essence of life itself. Without the power, you cannot feed yourself. Without the power, you cannot protect yourself. Without the power, you cannot control, or you cannot be in charge of your life. You cannot control all the events or all the situations in your life. And that seems to be the reality of Africa as we're speaking right now. Despite all the resources that Africa has, we have what the world needs and what the world cannot live without. But ourselves as African people, we are still dying in the Mediterranean water, trying to cross to Europe, simply because we don't have the power to use what we have, to use what we have been given in terms of resources and potential that we have in Africa. Therefore, the vision for Africa, the vision for African people, if really we want to see Africa that we need, if we want to change Africa, it shouldn't be anything else but only the power. We shouldn't be aiming to transform ourselves into little French or little British. We should be aiming only for one thing, which is the power. Therefore, we are aiming to re-establish the African global power base. That is our vision. And our mission is to create a continental government system by handled or managed by a new class of leaders that have been formed or trained through our institution that we call the Free-Minded Pan-African Academy. Leaders who have been given appropriate and relevant skills and competencies in the two fields, which is the business world and political world. That's how we that is our vision, and that's our vision and mission. As I've said, it's our vision is to re-establish African global power base, and the mission is to create a united continental governmental system that is working under the very same vision of the African global power base, which also is being managed by the leaders, a new class of leaders that we have trained within our educational institution, which is the Free-Minded Academy. Because we cannot address the issue of Africa or the solution of Africa with the very same mindset which has been trained by European to only sponsor the European ideology in Africa, or to support or to develop more the European ideology in Africa. So if we want to really change Africa, we need to look at the objective, which is the vision, and who are supposed to carry out that vision. Therefore, there's a need to create a new class of leaders. That's what we want to do. We don't just want to push a political agenda. We want also to train and to bring a new class of leaders who will obviously carry out that political agenda that we are coming with, which is the Free-Minded Academy, Pan-African Academy function within the ACUP.
How do you operate in different countries? Because it says a continental party, you know what I mean? It's African Continental Party, and it has to go to different countries in the continent. For instance, I am from Ethiopia, and how do I get a membership, and how do you come here and operate in Ethiopia and other countries in the continent Africa?
Indeed. In that light, we are operating differently from the way European institutions operate. You know, most of them, when they want to operate, they come in the country with the external expertise without really paying attention to the reality and the context of the people in the specific country. They come with the external, expertise and knowledge, and trying to enforce those kind of knowledge on the people in their countries. But we don't do that. What we do, we are approaching people who have interest in the party, people from any country, let's say from Ethiopia. If we have members from Ethiopia who have interest into representing the ACUP in Ethiopia, we train them about the vision, about firstly the ideology of the ACUP, the vision, the mission, and if necessary, we train them with some leadership skills, and then those are the people who will have to drive the movement or the party, because it's a movement at a continental level, but it becomes a party when it's obviously get to be established in one specific country. So when they understand the ideology, the philosophy, the vision of the party. Now, they will now be driving the party in their respective country. For example, in Ethiopia, obviously, with a global or a continental cooperation and assistance and support, they will be able to drive the party in Ethiopia, to grow the party, to strategize according to the situation in Ethiopia, and to make it a sustainable party. As we're speaking right now, the ACUP is functioning in Ghana. ACUP is working in Nigeria, is working in Sierra Leone, is working in Zambia, is working also in Tanzania. We also have a representative in Kenya. We have a representative here in South Africa. So this is how we are building. As I said, it's a newly founded party, but it's gaining momentum across Africa, also in the diaspora. And there are a lot of people who are embracing the African Continental Unity Party. And the people that we obviously, as I said, we train them about the vision and the ideology of the party. And obviously, work collectively to establish the party in every country in Africa according to its own reality and its own constitution.
How do you grant membership? What are the way outs and preconditions and preliminaries?
Well, the membership is granted to any African who wants to join the ACUP, because this is the Africans' party. There's no criteria or characteristics that distinguish one African from another, except in Eurocentric views. There are all lot of differences, but in our views as African people, we are one people rooted in one culture. Even though that culture might be having some diversities and stuff like that, we are all Africans. So the African Continental Unity Party is open to all African people. And in order to join, you just go on our website, which is www.africanacup.org, and register your membership. And obviously, you will be having your membership also. And we all pay our membership dues, which is yearly. It's fixed at $2 only. But for the moment that you have registered with us, you are a member of the ACUP. And if you want to go step further in obviously becoming an active member of the ACUP, you just have to obviously write our email address, and we will engage you personally and have a communication. And all the process that I've just outlined will be taken from that moment until you receive a certificate in order to represent the party in your country, in your community. And obviously from there, we'll be working together to affirming the party in your own community and make it a progressive movement in your own environment.
Well, ACUP has a free-minded Pan-African Academy, right? What do you really teach there?
Well, what we teach in basically, which the free-minded exists to, as I said, is a school of, is an academy for future African leaders in politics and business. So basically what we do, we give training on these two areas, politics and business. We create leaders who are competent in politics as also and in business, because politics and business are like, or can be considered as the right and the left leg of any human beings who that give him the balance so that he can walk in balance. If you don't have one leg, you might not be in balance. That is what politics and business does to a leader. One of the difficulties that we have faced in Africa so far is the fact that we have heard leaders who are inclined more into politics but have no knowledge of the business world. Therefore, what they will do, they will come up with all the projects for development, but they will now run to China, to America, to borrow the money for those projects to be implemented. And when that money is borrowed, that money has to be paid with the blood of the poor people of those nations. As I'm speaking right now, I'm a citizen of, in the colonial context, I'm a citizen of Congo. I never borrowed money from the Western civilization, from Western institutions, but I'm indebted to those institutions. The fact that I am now paying the debt that some crooks, leaders borrowed, I don't know, 20 years or 15 years back, the money that I'm not aware of, but I have to pay that money, you know. So that's a reality. That's the reality of having leaders who know much about politics, but they don't know much about the business world. On the other hand, when we have also leaders who know much about business world, but they don't know much about politics, geopolitics, and how the world functions, they are the leaders who can steal money from Africa and invest in Europe, who do not care about how long the money, one single US dollar stays in African community. They don't have those principles. Therefore, they can invest in thinking obviously about what this investment could bring to Africa if it was invested in African community, how many jobs it could have created and how many opportunities to have created for African people. So briefly to speak, leading a nation or managing a nation is similar to business management, whereby at the end of the year, a leader must declare profits. So we have big issue in Africa related to leaders who don't have business knowledge, but they only have political knowledge, or leaders who have more knowledge into business world, but they don't have knowledge of politics, or they don't even have an ideology rooted in African reality. So what we want to create now basically is leaders who are competent in the business and politics. Leaders who are competent in business politics means the leaders who have an ideology. Because politics, what it does, a person who's competent in politics is a person who carries an ideology, and a person who does everything to fulfill his or her ideology. So we want to make leaders who have an ideology that is rooted into Pan-Africanism, and business people who also have competence in the business world. That means when they are in charge of the nations, they know exactly what to do to declare profits after every year, and also to achieve the goal or the noble cause of African freedom fighters, which is to re-establish the African global power base. That is exactly what the free-minded do in principally. However, we also teach about a lot of things. Before we get to that point, we need to give you knowledge of history, knowledge of the African world, knowledge of the whole world, knowledge of the the business world, business management, entrepreneurship, economy, also political leadership. All those things comes in the package that we define as a leadership in business and in political world.
Your party, which is African Continental Party, is striving to build a global power base of Africa, right? You reiterated that power is essence, no doubt. It's an essence in everything. But specifically speaking, in what aspect or in what areas are you going to build a global power base of Africa? Can you explicitly show me or tell me or describe me those areas that you are aspiring to build global power base of African continent?
Well, power is something, especially in the context of geopolitics. Power is absolute power, is a complete power. Right now we are aiming for example, we're aiming for political power. That's the reason why we have what was formed in 2018 or 2019, which we call African Continental Free Trade. It's a demonstration of the ambition of African people to build an economic power. However, economic power is not the power that we want for Africa. You can also aim to obviously maybe build or maybe in that industrial power in Africa. That means, for example, what is happening in Rwanda or in Ghana, whereby we see Rwanda now is obviously manufacturing certain things, cars, they had the satellites or gold refinery, industry, or what you call refinery, how do you call it, industry, whatever the case might be. What they do there, one single thing cannot be considered as a power. Because why? If we have economic power, but you don't have the power to protect your economy, that power cannot help you to achieve anything. An example is in 2011, when Muammar Gaddafi was destroyed. He had lots of money. He did put his money to found the first African satellite for telecommunication. He also had a lot of money that he did put at disposal of the African monetary fund, which was going to replace the world, what you call the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund. He had a lot of money. Libya was economically well-established country, but it didn't have the military capacity to obviously protect his economy. And therefore, he was destroyed without really a strong resistance from opposed to those powers that came to destroy Libya. So in other words, I'm trying to say we cannot aim only for economic power if we don't have the military power to protect the economy. So to answer the question, the power that we're talking about, the African Continental Unity Party, is a complete power. It's a power in military industry. Africa must be able to defend and protect itself, and to the large extent to cause harm to those who oppress or offense or can obviously attack Africa. Africa must have the power, the economic power, to obviously use its resources to provide for a job, economic conditions, employment, or whatever that is needed in terms of economy to its citizens. Africa must have the scientific power to come up with solutions. For example, in time of of coronavirus like this, Africa must be able to come up with vaccine for her own children. Africa must have as I said, scientific power, also educational power. That means she must be able to to educate herself. Africa must be able to feed herself. That means nutrition power. That means, in that sense, we'll have a total power that will make Africa a global power base. But we cannot aim only for one power and depend on other people for other power. We are not powerful in that context. So how do we precisely going to achieve that power? We can achieve power by building institutions of power. That is what we are going to do within ACUP. Because power, when we talk about power, it's a kind of vague word. But practically, how are we going to make Africa a global power base is by building the institutions of power. We must make sure that the money that we receive is obviously served in African banks, because banking system is an institution of power. We must be the ones who produce what we consume, and we consume what we producing. That means we must be the ones who are supplying in the market. Yeah. Say again.
That is Thomas Sankara's quote.
Thomas Sankara's quote, exactly. So we must be able to obviously produce what we need. That's also an institutional power, which is the industry that produce the food, the clothes that you are wearing, the cars that you are driving, the cell phone. We must be able to produce that institution in Africa. We must be able to build institution for health, which means hospitals. We don't have to run to be leaders in our communities, but when we are sick, we run to the West in order to be treated. That is not what we want. In order to be in power, to build an institution of power around the health situation or health issue, we must build hospitals. So we must also be in charge of our education. We must build institution of education, because education is also a power, because they said knowledge is a power. Therefore, the institution of education is an institution of power. So that is how we are going to achieve the power. That's why we've started with a free-minded, which is an institution for education, and therefore is going to grow to become an institution of power. So precisely, we're going to build the African global power base by building institutions of power, in order to do for ourselves what others have pretended to do, because we have for a long time depended on other people and their institutions to do for us what we are meant or what we are supposed to do for ourselves. That's what we mean by power, and that's how we are going to achieve it. And the ACUP is not just a political movement. We have business projects within the ACUP, because I've just said power has to be done by building institutions. And before I finish this point, I need to make something very clear. For a long time, we have been fighting for identities. It means when a movement comes up to solve the African issue or African issues, that movement is centered on one individual personality. That means that person is trying to push himself in forefront of the leadership of that movement. He has to be known, he has to be acknowledged as the leader. However, when you die, your identity dies with you. However, if we build institutions, even when we die, institutions remain and will be carried out, will be taken care of by other generation that will replace us. And that is the essence of power. So we have to refrain from actually pushing our individual identities, but also working more in building institutions that will obviously reposition Africa in its initial position of superpower of the world. That is the essence of life. We just have to remember our ancestors in Egypt, they built pyramids. And today, when we look at the pyramid, we are inspired. We learn from them. We look at ourselves and we say, once a while in this world, we have been able to achieve something or to build something fundamental, which are these pyramids that we see everywhere across Africa. However, the identities of the people who built the pyramids, those identities are no longer important to us today. We may learn about all these pharaohs. We may learn about Imhotep. We may learn about Ptah, all these people that existed in the history, but their identities cannot change our reality today. However, the institutions or the things that they've built or the institutions that they've built is what obviously maintained Africa in a position of superpower for many, many centuries. Let's come back to the European world and see how it functions. Slavery lasted for 400 years. And 400 years, you can imagine how many generations, many of them. It means people who built the institution of slavery died and left that institution to the next generation, and so on. And the institution persisted. And even today, we are still under the same condition of slavery, because when you study the history of the banking system, all these institutions you can trace them from slavery, from feudalism, from all these conditions of inequality that were built back then. So these are the institutions that have existed for a long time, and the people who established them have already died, but the institution remained there and they have influence in the world. That is what we have to do in Africa. It is time to stop pushing self-identities, time to build institutions. And in order to build institutions, we have to work collectively. That is the reason why we are calling for African Continental Unity Party to be a party that is embraced by all Africans, because through this, we'll be able to establish institutions of power that will transform Africa into a global power base.
Westerners would have itchy eyes whenever they see such initiatives, which strives for Africa and for continental benefit. You know what I mean? So how are you going to cope up with such traits? Some individuals who have been striving for the betterment of Africa have been assassinated, murdered, lost. So how are you going to cope up with the imperialists' influence in doing this?
That is the most important thing about the ACUP, is because we don't have a leader. The leader is the vision of the ACUP. There's no individual leader in the ACUP that you can look out to and say, this is the leader that I have to take out. For example, myself, I'm speaking right now in the quality of a communicator of the ACUP. So if you take me down, there will be another person who will do the same job of communication. So I'm not the leader of the ACUP. The single leader of the ACUP is the vision, and that vision is known by all the members of the ACUP, and it is called the African Global Power Base. We are all working to achieve the African Global Power Base, which is our leader. We don't have individual leaders. And in that case, it's going to be difficult to stop this movement by tackling or by obviously attacking or targeting individuals within the ACUP, because we are in communication. We have those who are in the mobilization. We have those who are in finance. Who are you going to kill in order to stop the movement? The issues over which this movement is built still is there. If you take me out, because the issues there, other Africans will come to replace me and communicate the same ideas for Africa to grow and for this movement to achieve its objectives. So therefore, in that case, we have obviously eliminated the threat of being killed and obviously stopping the movement. But I have to explain something very important. We in Africa, we are a continent of people. I mean, I think a continent that is home to 80%, how can I put it? A continent that is 80% religious. That means we have 80% somewhere around there of people who believe in supernatural power, or precisely in paradise or in heaven. But for you to go to heaven or to paradise, you must die. So there's no issue about dying. Dying is just a passage, maybe to a higher places, if we really are true about what we believe in terms of our divinities and our belief system. So we don't have to be afraid to die, because if you are not afraid to die, it means you have never actually found the reason for you to live for. But we have found the reason to live for. Therefore, we are not afraid to die. If we die today, we are just like seeds that are thrown on the earth, in the earth, and as the rain falls on the earth, those seeds will grow again into another tree or into other trees that will obviously propagate the same agenda for the African liberation. But in mainly to respond to your question, we don't have a single leader, though. Therefore, there's not anybody that will be targeted by the imperialists to kill. Only the vision, but it's impossible for you to kill the vision.
Good. Where do you generate the finance, logistics, and other important supplementaries for your party?
As I said from the beginning, that when you join the party, you pay your membership fees, which is obviously $2. Yeah, it might be insignificant, as I said, but when you imagine a scenario where we can have, for example, 1 million membership, for example, Africa, I know that it's 3.4, 3.8 billion people, or maybe 4 billion people by now. But when you estimate that a membership of 1 million membership, obviously, it gives you a 2 million US dollars, which is also can help to have certain things organized around the continent. So that is how we want to fund the party. We don't want to get some funds from institutions that will dictate our vision and our mission on how we are supposed to work within the ACUP. We want to work based on the support that we are getting from our members. And also, apart from that, we have, as I said, we have some initiatives or some strategies to create business opportunities or business around the continent that also will create opportunities for African people in their communities, as well as some return to the ACUP and also to the Freeminders. So that's how we are functioning. And we are depending solely on the membership fees in order to operate and to grow from where we are to where we are supposed to be.
Dear viewers, this brings to the end of our edition for today. We have been discussing about a communication member of the African Continent Unity Party, Kabala John.